There he is.
There he is. Welcome, everyone, to the Furlough Files with your hosts, Ben and Anthony.
Episode, I don't know what.
231, 232, something like that.
Somewhere in the 230s?
Yeah. If only we had that many listeners per episode. Hey, I just want to get this ahead of this. I'll let everyone know that we just had a little exchange here where I was looking for any updates onto your availability to do this, and you were like, let's do it now. And I sarcastically said, well, I'm glad I asked, because, and then you, just so everyone knows, when this is cut short, Anthony texted me and said, I just got home, but let's knock it out before I start cooking. So if you feel gypped on this episode, like he rushed out of here, it's because he can't control how fat of a pig he is. And at some point, this looming impending need to bang pots and pans together and then stuff his face with whatever he cooks is going to overtake any obligation to this podcast. Just so everyone knows.
No, listen.
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
First of all, if somebody feels shorted on one of these podcasts, it's normal. So it's not like it's anything out of the ordinary.
Well, listen, just because... listen, I'm just saying, this is a changeable thing. It's not like you married a guy with a 4-inch dick and are expecting 6 inches one night. You know what I mean? This is a malleable situation here where you can one night we'll long dick you for an hour and a half, and the next night we're going to give you our best 2 minutes. So,
Hey, they're lucky they're getting 2 minutes,
Well,
just kidding.
I don't know if it's lucky.
Just kidding.
I don't know if it's lucky.
I will tell you this. Let's start off with this here. So I watched two things leading into this. I did a little homework. I watched the thing you sent me about Bill Alphonso.
That's not homework. I had to send that to you.
But then there was no match there. I had to go find the match myself.
I looked briefly for the match on
I found it.
YouTube, and it was such a low quality.
It's so low quality
that you can't tell that
filmed it from a camcorder in their hand.
You miss
all the crowd.
You miss all the detail of the fact that she's covered in blood, he's covered in blood, et cetera, et cetera. But so you saw the same one I found. Okay.
Well, I watched. Yeah, it's the same one. It's so low quality. But
I'm curious if you could find that on like the network, on the WWE streaming network. That'd be the place to watch.
I watched the one you sent first, and he says that he lost a third of his blood. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but that's like a wrestling tale, It's 20 years later. Yeah. That was probably,
That opening, first of all, the crowd is insane before they even touch each other because Tommy Dreamer got hurt. He couldn't continue. The crowd was
got hurt. Couldn't continue.
Got hurt. Couldn't continue. And the crowd was like absolutely.
Plus, this was building up from something. This wasn't just randomly.
Right. This was like a feud. Right.
Because this is like a mixed couples match almost. It's like a guy and his wife, who's his manager, and another guy and his manager. It's not as a tag team. It was supposed to be.
Right.
The match is only 7 minutes or something like that, but it's a hell of a 7 minutes.
So, the best part about it is. The match goes to start, and he's like, acting like he's gonna punch her, and the crowd's like, yeah. And then he turns around, and she takes a cookie sheet out of her shirt. And when he turns around to punch her, he punches the cookie sheet. She proceeds to hit him so hard, smack in the face with the. Did you see that?
Yeah, she brains him. Before watching it again, I vividly remember it from when I saw it when it originally aired, like 20 fucking years ago.
Well, it wasn't like, wrestling they hit on the top of the head. She swung it like a baseball, a cookie pan sheet, like a baseball bat, straight at his face.
She swung it as hard, the hardest a 90-pound woman could ever swing something like that. I mean,
and usually when you get hit with it, like, it bends or it literally just was like, dong! and he got up and his head was just literally gushing blood, pouring out of his head. But in the interview, he says that it was gushing. He couldn't get it to stop gushing.
Yeah.
It was like shooting out of his head.
Well, he said he took 10 aspirins.
Yeah, he did say, he's like, wrestlers used to take aspirins, and then he talks
the blood.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was shooting out. But you know, I think we've told the Bill Alfonso stories before. You know, I got two of them, Bill Alfonso stories, and
I
I
don't
think
know that
we've
we
told them
have.
before. Maybe we haven't. So the first one, Bill Alfonso. Let's just preface it. That's the guy we're talking about in this match with Beulah. He was a referee first, right?
I think so.
Before he became a manager.
Right.
And he kind of evolved into a role of like a referee manager, but like bad guy. Like,
Right. If
but then he
he
wasn't.
if he was
Yeah.
once he became a manager for guys, if he ever refereed a match again, you knew he was on the take. You know,
Right. Right.
he
Right.
his
Yeah.
trademark became once he became like because when you're a referee, you're kind of like people really don't need to know who you are. They don't need to know your name. Most
Right.
of the time,
Right.
if you watch enough wrestling, you learn who the referees are.
It's like
Because
ring announcers. But go ahead.
right, exactly. But in ECW, he became a pretty big manager, and his trademark
Right.
at the time was that he developed this really annoying gimmick where he blew like a
Yeah.
coach's whistle
Right.
non-stop. Like
Right.
like imagine like if you're living in an apartment and you have a fire a smoke detector and the
Right.
battery gets low and it starts chirping and you can't
Yeah.
it's like somewhere where you can't reach it to change the battery and this continuous chirp that just like it's
Over and over
like
again.
water torture. He would blow that
Right.
whistle so much during the match that it was like Chinese water torture. It was
Hmm.
I mean and that was the point, I guess. It worked.
Right. Right. I think it was supposed to be annoying, and it was that was his thing, you know. But it was. I don't think anybody's ever done that with a whistle before in wrestling.
No, I
Not that I remember.
if he did,
Yeah.
we don't remember. We only ever
Right.
equate to this guy,
Right.
you know.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So when I was this was in FOW, and it was uh this was kind of like the I want to say it was the reboot of FOW, but before I took over. Like this was like Bobby was. I want to say Bobby was out of jail
You would
at the time.
Was anyone else
I
did anyone else run FOW shows other than you and Bobby?
Frank did, I think,
In the
if I
in the
remember.
in the in between.
Right. I don't remember that part. I'll tell you, it's kind of vague on that because I don't remember when Bobby went to prison. Uh, who ran FOW? Because I want to say it still ran, if I remember.
Right.
Um, I I can't remember. Anyway,
There's only one guy to
Bo-
ask about that. I'm going to make a note so we can have Bobby on and ask him about that cuz I'm curious too.
yeah, I don't remember that specific. Uh, th- I'm actually looking it up. Okay, so here it is. It was
That's actually something that's googleable.
yeah. Uh, see.
Wrestling fans can keep track of the most useless fucking shit.
August 6th, 2011. August 6th, 2011, I defeated Billy Fives for the FOW Heavyweight Championship in Hollywood, Florida.
Mhm.
Okay? Uh, yeah, August 6th. So that night, August 6th, 2011, when I defeated Billy Fives, I'll say that again, the match was, you know, obviously wrestling, fake. We called the match, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, for the finish, you know, we want to do some funky stuff. And Bill Alfonso was there. So Billy's like, you know, we're going to use Bill Alfonso for the finish, whatever. We planned it where Chuck was a referee, friend of ours. Chuck would take a bump, like Billy would hit him on accident, or I think I hit him on accident or something. He goes down, the referee's out, Billy hits me, there's no referee, right? Uh, Something happens, I hit Billy, I think I cheated, I don't even remember. No, I was a good guy then. I hit Billy and I pin him, and I have Billy pin. There's no ref. Bill Alfonso slides in out of nowhere, counts to three. 1, 2, 3. So I defeat Billy Fives by Bill Alfonso, counting three. Um, Bill raises my hand, and to me it was cool because Bill Alphonso was cool in ECW. He was cool. And it's funny because he slides in and counts to 3 and he's blowing the fucking whistle the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was literally like a 3-second spot. And he's blowing the whistle. Place goes nuts, I beat Billy Fives, can't say that enough. On August 6, 2011. I also held the title for 350 days. Write that down, 350. Just remember that.
You were also like you seem to be a guy that they like to give the title to for long runs. Like, didn't Carino also give you the title for like?
Yeah, Carino was almost it was over a year.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So 350 days. I am the longest reigning FOW champion ever.
That's probably because no one was running shows.
Right, it doesn't matter. So anyway, yeah.
And then when you take over, of course, you could just keep booking yourself as the champion.
Well, I put Agony over for the title, and then I beat him for it again. So I'm a 2-time champion. Billy's a 6-time champion for FOW. I'm a 2-time champion for FOW. Sean Allen, let's see, 1 time. So me and Bobby are tied for 2 titles, and a guy named Pat McGuire had 3.
Wait, so you and Bobby, both guys that actually booked and ran the fucking promotion.
That's neither here nor there.
both had 2 title runs.
I was a combined champion. I was a combined champion for 392 days.
Well, there's
392 days.
Your second title run was brief, 40 something.
Yeah,
days.
I dropped it to Sean Allen. So, right, who technically was the last FOW champion ever.
That feels like you won at one show and lost at the next.
Well, let's go to the board here. So I won it August 6th. I lost it July 21st, 2012. I won it back August 11th and then lost it September 22nd.
September. It had to be the next show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Really.
So you were a transitional champion.
Well, I mean, if you'd say that. I made the decision.
I mean, that was when you were calling the shots. So that's very humble of you. That's that's the most humble way to. If there is a humble way to book yourself into the championship, that's the most humble way to do it.
Right. Literally won and lost the belt within a matter of like 60 days.
40 something.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I did the math when you were talking. That's why I said it had been like just show to show. It was only like 40 days.
Right. So, well, and we'll kind of tell a little story about that too. So, Bill Alphonso was the first night I ever met him in my life. So, I met him, and after the show, he was like, "Hey, great job." He watched the whole match. He was telling me and Billy knows him. So, first time I ever met him, and we hung out after. Had a good time, had some drinks. Everybody, good little after party. Nothing crazy. But it's the first time I ever met him. Anytime after that I ever saw him, he remembered my name, knew who I was. Like, just from that small interaction, he never forgot me. Like, he never forgot who I was. And I remember the first time I had seen him after was like a year later, and he remembered me, like my name. He like hugged me. How's it been? I hadn't seen you. I was like, how the fuck is this guy? Like, he's probably done more drugs than anybody. How does he remember who I am?
I was going to make that observation that a lot of wrestlers, or at least a lot that I notice, have they've done 20 years of headshots and drinking and drugs and just and insanity, yet they can remember like all kinds of details and all kinds of things. They will remember a match and they know the fucking month and the year and what happened and who else was there in the building. And I'm like, I could never remember any of that shit. Like, ever. Right. So I guess Fonzie goes in that category. He's got a steal.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, our buddy Jackie, who's no longer with us, exactly like this. Like, that guy never forgot a fucking thing. And I've seen him so fucking drunk for such long stretches that you're like, there's no way he remembers any of this. He'll, like, 6 years later, He'll tell me what I was wearing that night, who was there, what happened. I'm like, how's he fucking? The problem was that you don't want a guy that has a memory like that having the other trait, which was that he was a fucking mental scorekeeper. Anytime
right. He never.
Anytime he's ever mad with you or me or whatever, he remembered every goddamn thing since the day we met, and he would run it down. And you couldn't argue. It was hard to argue because you don't have the same memory to like recount every single grievance you have with him over the last 20 years. But he he remembers. He could do them, and it's like he will recite them back to me like he's reciting the presidents of the United States in fucking order. And if I had requested him to switch to alphabetical order, he could do that or go back to chronological. It's the same thing with his list of heat with you, you know?
Right. And you would even have to question and go, did I really do that? Because like you don't even remember.
Right.
You're like, that happened?
Or half the things or half the things he says you had forgot about, but then remember on the spot. And while he's yelling at you, you're chuckling because now you all of a sudden have remembered this thing, and it's like popping you, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Bill Alphonso remembered me, like always, ever since then. So then that title reign, obviously I dropped the belt to Aaron Agony. Aaron Agony was what does Aaron Agony weigh? 110 pounds? Like, seriously.
I mean, 120 is fair.
Right. He was a 120-pound kid, and everybody was so mad at me that I made the decision to drop the belt to him. And they were like, what? Why are you putting a heavyweight title on that little kid? Well, my booking was beyond light years ahead of wrestling because I was like, this kid, like, I think, like, people, they want to see him win. Like, I think I had beat him up for, like, a month straight or 2 months straight, whatever, leading up to it. Like, I literally would, like, beat his ass, and he finally won the belt from me. And I remember when he pinned me, like it was at ICW
because no one because it's like because everyone's mad at you for booking it because they can't see it. So when they're watching that match, there's no way he's beating you. And then when he does, and you tell a story that gets people invested over a little bit of time, and it's David versus Goliath. It's the underdog story. It's the comeback story. It's everything that fucking movies are based on and that fucking people relate to and that gets people emotional over. It's all of that.
Right. And I don't think people saw that.
Well, the people that complained about it are just the people probably mostly in the business that are like that for whatever reason are offended that this little guy is like a contemporary of theirs when they're like 100 pounds bigger than him, and why is that guy got the fucking rub, you know?
Right, and I knew when I made that decision. There was a couple of us sitting around, and I made the decision, and they were like, "What? Like, why? What? No, And I go, "No, I'm telling you, I've been beating this kid's ass, like up and down, Miami to Fort Lauderdale, wherever the shows were." I go, at ICW, where it was his home crowd in Miami, we're gonna put him over, but there's gonna be some sort of screw job. Well, the screw job was that Sean Allen got involved because I had been punking Agony. Me and Chuck. Chuck was the referee that we just talked about. The other referee, Chuck, was basically the referee that was on my side. He was in my pocket, right?
Right. So it's even greater. Like I'm saying, such a hill to climb for this kid. Nobody's
right, and it was right. We screwed him out of a couple of matches prior, and nobody ever thought he would go over. Well, that night in Miami, it was a packed building.
I must have been there for it.
No, you were. Yeah, I'm sure you were. And the finish was Chuck went to help me win. The referee was, in my pocket. We were gonna screw him over once again. Well, another wrestler, Sean Allen, came out and ended up causing Chuck got knocked out. I take a hit. I fall. Agony does like a shooting star press. Lands. Another ref runs in. 1, 2, 3. He wins. The place goes absolutely apeshit. I got goosebumps talking about it because I can remember. I remember two things: laying on the ground and watching him in midair fucking flip backwards, like inside out. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. He got so high.
Yeah.
And when he landed, 1, 2, 3, and just the eruption of the building was absolutely insane. Like the place went. Nobody thought that would happen. This little kid beating this, big fat guy, and he won the belt. Whatever. Cool moment. I'm kind of sidetracking from the Bill Alphonso story, but there's one other cool moment that Agony did, and I don't know if were you there in Deerfield when he jumped off that balcony?
Yep.
That was cool. So that was the night Sean Allen won the title. So that was in September. I was back to being champion.
It was like at a high school or something, right?
It was at that sports complex.
Oh, was it at the sports complex? I don't remember.
Right. Yeah. And that night, it was a 4-way. It was me versus Agony versus Anthony Michaels versus Sean Allen for the title. And I don't remember how Anthony Michaels got thrown in there. I have no idea. But there was a balcony, like where like kind of like a judge or scorekeeper for maybe like it was like a hockey arena, like roller hockey arena would sit.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know how high it was, maybe 20 feet, 25 feet up. And when I got there that day, I said, hey, what do you think about climbing up there and diving on all three of us? And he was like, yeah, like no questions asked. Agony. He was like, I'll do it. So during the match, he jumped up. And
was that where you used to perch Ragu with the camera on the tripod?
Yes, up there.
Okay.
Ragu was up there when it happened. Yeah, which is, that's just wrong in general. But we made Ragu climb up there. But
well, no, there's stairs up to there. I mean, granted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I get it.
Yeah. Anyway, so he had climbed up there, and there's a picture out there of him he's in the air, and the three of us are looking up to catch him, and his arms are spread wide and his legs are spread wide. He looks like a flying fucking squirrel.
Isn't he kind of upside down? Is he upside down, or is he?
No, he's like kind of like at an angle.
Okay.
And it's like he looks like one of those flying squirrels.
Yeah.
And he dove 25 feet down onto us, and everybody went apeshit. And then Sean Allen won the title that night. That was the last FOW show, I believe. No, it wasn't, because Sean Allen worked some other matches as heavyweight champion. So no, it was close to the end of FOW, of my run of FOW. I think we ran maybe another 6 months of shows or something, and that was it. Somewhere in that range, maybe. But or maybe a year. I don't remember. So anyway, yeah, Agony. That was my best booking. I don't care what anybody says.
I mean, we did, but when we did the SuperCon shows, the cosplay wrestling at the conventions, he was I caught heat from Broder over booking him as the champion as well. He's like, and I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, but it's not that he's a little guy. It doesn't matter. We're doing cosplay wrestling. He's playing a character, and it's like, and he's playing Link from fucking Zelda. It's like, and
he was perfect for.
Right. You're Super Mario. It's like but it's like it doesn't matter how big or small he is. He's playing a character, this like video game character. So and in that we did the whole thing, almost the same story as you in a way different fashion, where like it was a tournament for the belt, and he gets to the end of the tournament, and there's the swerve. Whoever's calling the shot, I think it was Marco with his character, Cobra Commander, is calling the shots, and he's like, oh, well, the final tournament match is now a gauntlet match, and you have to face this guy, and this guy before you fight me for the belt.
Right.
And so then that last night of the tournament, he has to fight 3 guys and then face Marco. So it's that build, overcoming odds, getting screwed, yada, yada, except we're including like, props and swords and, gauntlets and all this shit. And it was the same thing when he won, like the place went fucking crazy because, basically the same narrative that you did,
Right, and it worked because it wouldn't have worked with somebody bigger because it wouldn't have worked. It had to be that little underdog,
Yeah. For that story, absolutely.
So, back off my sidetrack. my next Bill Alfonso story is, so fast forward to, I don't know what year this was, but we were at that, what was that War Memorial or something in Fort Lauderdale, and the match was me and Frankie Fatso, the Slambinos, versus Steve Carino and Colby Carino in a cage match. And uh, Bill Alfonso was not at the show. He was not
Wait,
at the
where?
building. He was
That wasn't at the War Memorial.
No, it was that other one, that little I don't remember what it was called. It was like they had like tanks and shit outside.
No,
But it was like
it's also a it's not a war memorial, but it's a
it was like a reserve,
military
yeah.
reserve type place. Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right,
I know where it is.
Right, and yeah, it was me and Fatso versus the Carinos, Steve Carino, ECW, I guess legend you can say, in a steel cage.
Why are you saying it like disrespectfully? I thought you liked Steve.
Oh no, so I wasn't saying it disrespectful.
You're
He
like,
was
oh, I
my
guess. Oh, yeah.
he was my favorite wrestler, like my favorite one. So that show was, by the way, it was July 2nd of I don't know the year of that one. I looked it up, but it doesn't have the year. July 2nd. I don't know.
Like, what do you think? Like 2018?
No, it couldn't have been.
17?
Could it?
2017?
I was living in South Carolina.
Oh, so it had to be like a little earlier, huh?
Yeah, it was July.
I mean, Jackie was around, so it's at least 5 years ago.
Right. So on that show was two steel cage matches. It was Steve Carino and Colby Carino versus Slambinos.
You know, that was the night of the birth of the Breakfast Club.
Right, right. And the second main event was we were like semi-main. The second main was Sandman versus Sabu in a steel cage. Two more ECW legends. And it says Bill Alfonso was the referee. I don't remember seeing Bill there at all at first. Also, you know what?
Well, we know Bill. We know Bill was there because he hung
but I
out
don't
with us
remember seeing it
later that night at Drew's,
to.
hotel room. Yeah,
I was going to get to that, but I don't remember him at the show.
There's
a couple things I remember.
No. I don't think he was on the show. I think he showed.
No, he wasn't there.
I think we were all laughing later that he showed up and like, where'd Bill Alfonso come from? He wasn't on or at the show. I think that was part of the. I think that was part of like the thing we all laughed about when he came up to the room later.
Right. We'll get to that in a second because there's a couple of things I want to hit on that show.
Yeah.
So that show also featured Sean Prime versus former Breakfast Club. We don't know where he is. Drew Donovan was on that show.
Well, I think once in the club, always in the club. You're just
right.
You're just behind on your dues.
That show also had 2 out of 3 falls. Craig Classic versus TK Stark. I don't remember it, so it must have sucked.
I don't remember it either.
And then the opening was Mike Cruz versus JoJo, which it's funny because I remember that match and I thought, wow, that was really good because Mike Cruz, carried JoJo. It was good. Anyway, so there's a couple things I remember from that show that night. So, and then we'll get to the Bill Alfonso part. So the first part was Sandman. I get a text message from a girl I went to middle school with that said, Sandman, I think I told this story, that are you wrestling on a show with Sandman tonight? And I said, yeah. I hadn't spoken to this girl. Like, she sent me like a Facebook message. Like, we hadn't spoken since like middle school or something. And I was like, yeah, we're Facebook friends because everybody is. And I was like, right. Yeah. I was like, how do you know Sandman? She's like, Abby, this other girl we went to school with, Abby's husband is best friends with him. He was the best man at their wedding. I met him there. I can't stand him. He's a prick. He's an asshole. But, he's just a jerk and this and that and the other. So when Sandman got there, the girl Abby was there too. And she's like, holy shit. I was like, oh, I hadn't seen each other since middle school. So, and she's like, yeah, so Sandman's like laughing hysterical. He's like, holy shit, how the hell do you all know each other? He's like, yeah, for middle school and blah, blah, blah. You're talking middle school. It was like 20, I was in 2000, whatever this was. If it was 18, you're talking, I graduated high school in 99. So this is like in the 90s, I knew this girl. So anyway, Sandman's like, wait, he knows Meredith, the other girl? And yeah. And he goes, oh, she fucking hates me. And I said, I said, yeah, she just messaged me. He goes, can I take a picture with you? He asked me. And I said, yeah. He goes, let's give her the middle finger. So we take a picture together with his arm around me, flicking off the camera. We sent to her, and she was like, you motherfucker. She was livid that sent that picture. The second thing I remember from that night, we've touched on this before, is Sabu, ECW legend, was in WWE too or WWF, was there with the Genie, who was his manager and his girlfriend or whatever. She's passed away since. I just remember the catering was pasta.
Yeah.
It was salad, pasta, like spaghetti, red sauce, and like garlic bread. They were filling up a bag with the pasta. First of all, he must have ate 45 plates, the two of them, because it's like they hadn't eaten in forever.
Right.
And then they were filling up a baggie to like bring it home with them, like bring it to the hotel with them of the pasta, because they probably didn't have money to eat dinner that night, which is wild. But I never forget we were sitting there and I was like looking, and a few of us tapped each other. I was like, what the fuck? And Carino was like he was just like, yeah, normal. Like it didn't even faze him, and we were all like, what the hell, you know?
Well, because he's been around him forever. I mean, he's obviously
right.
This isn't his first rodeo bagging pasta.
Right. No. It was like he had the bag ready to go.
Right.
But it was like a bag he had his gear in, like his knee pads. He just took the knee pads out and filled it with pasta. Like it didn't even matter. So anyway, I remember that from that night. The cage match was fun, good times. But the after, we went to the hotel, and that's when we were all hanging out in Drew Donovan's room.
Yeah, Drew and his wife got a room for the night because he came down from Tampa.
Right, and we were, we were partying, and all of a sudden there was a knock at the door. We opened the door, and there's Bill Alphonso. But he wasn't at the show. You're right, because we were all like, I remember we were all like hysterically laughing that Bill Alphonso randomly just showed up at the hotel, wasn't at the show, and just walked in as if like somebody invited him. But I will tell you,
it's funny. He came. This is my theory. He came looking to hang out with some of the boys,
right?
At the hotel, and either followed the noise or the smell, one or the other, or both, to the room, and said, "This has got to be it," because no one in there knew he was coming. It wasn't like someone said. It wasn't like Colby Carino had texted him and said,
"No,
we're in room 108 or whatever." Because let's run down who was there. It was like you, me, Colby, TK, Drew, his wife, Jessica.
Prime was there.
Jessica, Jackie.
Yeah.
Was Prime's girlfriend there? Natalia, wife there?
Yeah, Natalia was there. Yep, she was there. Yeah.
And your buddy, what's her face?
Yeah, we're not gonna say her name. Yeah, she was there. Right. So she's moved on to God's greener God's pastures and Bibles. So,
well, you do. Let's just put it this way. I'm sure that's not the first woman that you've driven to the good book. You know what I mean? That you've sent running to prayer and the holy house.
But I will say this: Jackie left, if I remember, and went because just Jessica was there.
Was Blake there? Blake was there.
Blake was there. Blake was there. Right. Blake was there. Jackie was not there. He left. He took an Uber home.
Must have been a little bit. Must have been one of those tense nights.
Right.
Like
he left. I remember that.
Yeah, one of those nights where maybe he and she had a disagreement about their open relationship, if you will.
Right. Because Blake was there, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, there are stories I want to tell. Like
one day,
even about that night that involved you and I mean, that was actually a hell of a night. That was a good time.
It was. And so that night, though, when Bill Alphonso, I answered the door. I opened the door, and it was Alphonso, and he remembered me that night. he remembered. He said my name, and I was like, "Holy shit!" He hugged me, like did not forget, and then he partied with us, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared.
Totally changed the vibe of the entire night. Like we were all just chill, kind of telling whatever. He comes in, it brings everyone's spirits up because everyone's excited.
Yeah.
Bill Alphonso, who wasn't at the show, randomly just shows up at the hotel after we've been chilling, and just like then he's telling stories. And who did he give his number to? That we were like, oh, it was Drew. I think he wanted Drew to call him when he was up there.
Right. Yeah.
Drew's like, should I call him? I'm like, yeah, you should call him.
Yeah, that was fucking wild. Yeah. Yeah, he just left. He just disappeared, and that was the end of it.
It was like Clint Eastwood, the other Pale Rider. He just kind of walks away and disappears. Just
disappears, right. The door never even opened. He just disappeared.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a night. And what was something with TK too that night? Was that the first night we got him high?
Yeah. It was the first night TK ever smoked in his life, and and then. Now it's downhill.
And then he smoked, and then he was quietly just eating his leftover food out of a styrofoam container. Everyone keeps looking at him like, is he all right? I'm like, I think so. He's still eating.
he's still eating. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, because we drove from South Carolina to do the show. That was a fun night. There was the whole show. The show was fun. The after party was fun. It was a good time.
I want to say Craig popped in the room at one point too.
Yeah, he did because he was there. Yeah,
I feel like
that was a good time.
I feel like it was almost like he popped in, hoping to be asked to stay or hoping to get the joint passed around him or something. And we all kind of were like that weird polite where we don't want to like keep talking to him, so we give him the one-word answers and stuff. But we were not rude. But at the same time, I think at a certain point he was just like, "All right, I'm gonna go."
Yeah, it was like awkward.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All this is coming back to me, man.
Right. Yeah, that night was a blast. That was a really fun night. Good stories came out of that night. But yeah, and then just Bill Alphonso, he never forgot who I was. It was crazy. There's one other wrestler, I don't know if I ever told you this, who remembered me every time I saw him. Have I ever told you this?
I don't know who it is. To
Jay Lethal.
No.
Every time I had met Jay Lethal when I did the ROH training camp, and he thought I was great. Loved me, thought I was fantastic. When I left the last day of the camp, he gave me a hug, gave me his number, the whole deal. I had seen him a couple other times at ROH shows, and now you're talking months later, and always came up to me, gave me a hug, how are you doing? Everything good? Fast forward a couple of years later, I'm wrestling in Florida, and he came to a show, and he comes up like behind me and grabbed me. I turned around. He was like, "Hey!" I was like, "Oh!" He's like, "Man, I didn't know you were gonna be here." I was like, "Yeah." It was like late addition to the show or something. He was like, "Oh man,
was this an ICW one?"
No. This was I was somewhere up north wrestling in Tampa or something, Orlando, and he remembered me. Every time I saw Jay Lethal, he came up, hugged me, asked me how I was, how I'm doing, remembered me from the camp because, he liked me. It was hilarious. Yeah. Never forgot who I was.
Lethal worked with Mark for a little bit. They had the school
in
Tampa and whatever, or poor Richie up there. And I think they all, him, Lethal, Mark, his tag team partner, and Jude drove down to work at ICW show. And we had a hang at the Flashback later, the Flashback Diner. But earlier that night when we were at the show, that was when Jude got a gibber in the parking lot in Lethal's car from one of your Eskimo buddies with her.
Okay, we don't have to name people.
But you know who I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah, okay. So So he got a gibber in the fucking parking lot in Lethal's car, which he revealed
Right.
later at the Flashback Diner. And Jay Lethal was a little like just taken aback by the whole concept that someone got a blowjob in his car earlier that night. So, but
That's so
that
funny.
night we were talking about bringing Lethal in to do SuperCon, and we had this weird idea to take the audio from I think it was going to be Hogan versus Macho match.
Right.
I think that was the one we were going to do, and they were going to do beat for beat, like just run the audio from the commentary of it, you know, and that they were going to sync their moves. They were going to recreate the match in the ring. It was going to be him, and we were going to get Brian Brock to play Hogan with him.
Right.
And we were just thinking like we just this weird thing that we were like spitballing doing, where we would just play the audio from the match and have the commentators calling it, and of course they would have to be doing their moves, timing them right, and basically just recreating the entire match beat for beat to the audio. And we thought, we were like popping ourselves, thinking this was gonna be the greatest idea, and we just never got around to doing it. But
that would have been good. That actually would have been a good idea.
because you know Lethal does the Macho Man impersonation, and Brian sort of looks like a you know, I mean, of anyone in Central Florida and South Florida wrestling at the time, who was going to come closer to kind of having that old school Hogan look, you know, than he would have. You know, he doesn't have the same build as Hogan. He's more of a, you know, more of a dusty build than a Hogan build, but still.
Right.
That just never percolated into more than just that idea that night, that we were all so excited we were going to do it, and then we never moved forward with it after that.
Yeah, that would have been great.
It would have been cool.
Yeah. I mean, Lethal, he always remembered me, but yeah, I don't know. So like when you talk about those times in wrestling, those are good times, right? Like those are times that like I'm like, oh man, I do miss that kind of stuff.
It's all the shit in between those good times,
right? Mm-hmm. And the traveling, I hate traveling.
And it's not, and like the good times we're talking about weren't the actual matches.
Right. Yeah, right.
It's always the like after hang, you know. So
yeah.
So just, you know, I like Alphonso had the right idea. You just go hang out with the guys afterwards. Don't even go to the match.
Yeah, because he was definitely not on the show.
He wasn't on the show.
Because I remember we were all
like, where did this?
Up.
Yeah, it was like someone rubbed a lamp and a genie popped out.
Like, where did he come from? Right.
like right. Because it's not even like where did he come from? It's like why is he here? Because he wasn't at the show.
Right.
There was no reason for him to be in the. You know, yeah. And he doesn't live in South Florida, so it was like the most weird.
No, it was like, how did he get there? Right.
Oh, yeah. Still a mystery. Yeah. I think
still to this day.
I think next time you bump into him, you should ask him, like, what do you? Because if he remembers your name every time, he might remember that night, and you should just ask him, what the fuck? We're still wondering what you were there for. Why were you in the area? What were you doing?
Right. Yeah, no, that was yeah. I don't know. Oh man, yeah, good. Those are the good stories. Those are the good times we had. But yeah, now it's not the same. That's the other part to it, you know. Things aren't the same.
Well,
you know, they're just not the same. So,
well,
I don't know.
Poor us.
Oh, maybe it's us. Yeah.
It's probably us.
Probably us. Yeah.
Don't want to change with the times.
Yeah. You see, speaking of sticking on wrestling here, we'll just, I don't know if you saw this, but they're starting to announce some of the matches for AEW Double or Nothing. And Hook and Danhausen are tagging against Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. Why is Mark Sterling wrestling? I have no idea. But he is.
Well, he's a wrestler.
I see Danhausen.
I mean, he is a wrestler.
Yeah. Danhausen makes a tweet today. And if you don't know who Danhausen is, you got to look him up. He's a hilarious. He's really like a comic act. he tweets at The Rock, the flyer for like their match, saying, "Hello, Rock, Danhausen here again, fellow famous Hollywood celebrity. How does Danhausen become a very muscled, very evil, as you in less than a week for his pay-per-view?" He's asking The Rock how he gets in shape for it. I'm actually excited for Double or Nothing.
I mean, I'm excited for every AEW pay-per-view. Some of, like I don't have the card in front of me, but I feel like one or two of the matches that they had made didn't set my shorts on fire as much as
you get the Hardys and
the
Young Bucks.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't remember. I don't have the card in front of me. There were like one or two matches that weren't like making the card like everything's like older cards. You're like, oh my god, every match is a banger. There's not a bad match on the card, et cetera, et cetera. And this one, I was like, one or two were like, just I wasn't into. I don't remember what they were. So
I just I know you got the Bucks and Hardys, which is, I mean, it's happened before, but it's still cool, you know. Yeah. So
I mean, is Punk going over?
I don't know.
What
do you think?
That's a good mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like that can only end in a screw job, like not a screw job, but like somebody else that's also feuding with those guys is going to come out and fuck that matchup, so that Hangman retains, but Punk didn't quote lose.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess though, if Punk's going to be the big heel, he's got to go over, but he's got to go over cheating. I think or something, because to continue from there, he'd be super heel at that point.
I'm just really crossing my fingers that we don't those Owen tournaments. I wasn't a big fan of the way they did the men's one. I felt it was like an opportunity to get someone else some spotlight, like a Dax. So I am just crossing my fingers that it doesn't end up being part 4 of the, what do you call it, the Cole and what's his name, his tag, his buddy from Red Dragon. I can't remember his name at the moment.
I mean, could be.
I mean, I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm excited for when I tried watching Raw last night. I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. I cannot watch wrestling.
It was
Raw.
It was a battle of which was worse, Raw or that fucking basketball game.
Miami Heat game, which was brutal.
Yeah.
I switched from one to the other, and then I just literally put on Impractical Jokers after, because that was way better than either of them. But I can't get into WWE anymore, man. I really try. I had this conversation with somebody at work today. I just cannot. Man, and it's sad because it's something that we all, we grew up on that. I cannot get into it. I can't.
I
just can't get into it.
I hadn't watched for months and months and months. And then WrestleMania came. And then I was like, okay, let me kind of fresh start it from here. And I started watching again, and Cody thing was interesting. I'm just curious if from let's see how they handle or mishandle this week to week, So I'm kind of riveted into that. And then surprisingly, the Elias Ezekiel thing won me over, but that's about it.
Oh, me too. But I like that goofy kind of shit.
But to fast forward through 3 hours of wrestling for really only those two things to be a payoff, it's tough.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So I recorded it this week and last week, and both weeks I don't think I'm even gonna zip through it for those tiny little parts. I'm just
it's unwatchable.
I'm not excited to
it's just unwatchable wrestling.
Yeah.
It really is. But, well, tomorrow's Wednesday, so we get our AEW fix. And it's funny how many people out there, the amount of casual wrestling fans or people who used to be wrestling fans and then stopped, that I meet out like at work and they're like, oh, do you watch AEW? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, I turned it on one night, man, and I was hooked. It like reminded me of, when I liked wrestling. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like that, that's what when I liked wrestling, it's like WWE literally killed it for everyone at some point. So
yeah, at some point, it's like really you have to be like wired like you or me to have gone through the ups and downs as much as we have over the years,
right,
and still kind of be into it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, I seen somebody yesterday, and this guy always talks wrestling at Publix, and he was just like, he's like, I don't even turn on. He's older than me, and he's like, I don't turn on WWE. He's like, it's just, I grew up on it, and I can't stand to watch it. I was like, oh, I'm the same way, man. I cannot watch their product. It's fucking awful. It's awful. So
it's weird because we have all these like accounts and interactions with people and conversations, and yet like it's almost like the ratings between those two shows, those two companies, don't really reflect what we're talking about. And I don't know if that's like factoring in the kid factor,
Yeah.
And being like, well, WWE is a lot more cartoony and colorful, and I think it's hard to maybe the kids. It's harder to hook little kids into watching AEW when it's like, a 10-minute mat classic between, two grapplers and that
right.
And also that, you're watching AEW and your mom walks in the room and sees, the blood match of the week or the thumbtacks and on the free TV. And they're like, nope, absolutely not.
Right.
I think that's the whole rate. I think that's the whole rating difference right there is kids.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's probably not good for parents don't want to see that shit. But
but that's how you become. But most people don't become fans later in life. You become a fan in your in your like, what do you say, like 10 to 16 age range is when you really most people get into wrestling. It's hard to get into it later.
Yeah, it is. But it's just if you're a wrestling fan and you were a wrestling fan back in the day and you haven't watched AEW, watch it because I truly believe you'll be hooked.
Yeah, well,
you'll be like, wow, like,
if you're a fan of what either WCW was, ECW was, or WWE was back in the day, even.
Right. Yeah, you'll be a fan. There's no doubt.
This is more for you.
Right. So, yeah, well, at least we got something. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be watching wrestling, to tell you the truth.
No, I can't do like what Blake does, where he's rewatching Impact fucking shows.
No, I can't do that. Right. He's like, oh, I watched SummerSlam 90. I'm like, what? Who would watch that? Like, why the fuck? Who has even time to watch that?
No,
I guess he does.
Well, that's a man right there with no other interests in life. Like, he's just like sports and wrestling. There's nothing else.
True.
It's like I have so many interests, and I like to do like at least if I turn on the TV, there's so many things I like to watch and whatever.
Right.
It's like you're not going to get this kid to watch a TV series or a Western movie or a sci-fi flick or whatever. He would rather watch, like I said, an Impact pay-per-view from 10 years ago.
Right. That's so true. Right. Oh, well, I don't know. I got nothing else. I haven't even started cooking. I don't even bitch about cooking. So I don't want to hear it today.
That's fine. I'm growing a tail over here. I got some.
You today growing the tail, huh?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not like trying to like end it because of it. I'm just.
Oh, here we go.
I'm just kind of like. I'm practicing my Zen meditation techniques to to not
to
not have a
to not have to
disaster
go.
over here. Yeah.
Right. Oh well, you go enjoy your poopski, and I'm gonna go cook because I'm fat and I gotta eat.
What are you cooking? What are you eating?
I'm actually just gonna make simple tonight. I actually saw a Instagram video of pasta with broccoli, oil, and garlic, and I was like, that looks so fucking good. I want it tonight, so
No
that's what I'm
chicken?
making. No, no. My grandma used to make this
No cheese?
exactly this way.
A little
Yeah, you
parmesan?
got to use cheese, little Parmesan though. You got to use a little Parmesan.
All right.
But I'm pretty pumped about it, and I do got one other update before we go. Nick the Dick injured himself this week. He calls me yesterday from school and says, I think I broke my ankle. And I'm like, what? He's like, it's swollen. So, of course, I'm like, you pussy. So he gets in the car and he's like limping and his shoe is off. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing? His ankle was the size of a softball. I'm like, holy shit. I like never seen anything like it. I was like, oh, you're not kidding. He's like, I can't walk. And he just sprained, he rolled his ankle playing basketball. And,
just like my roommate over here. Your roommate sprained his
my
ankle
roommate
too.
and your roommate, right? So funny.
The two fucking guys competing for the title of Mr. Glass.
So true. That's great. So he can't do anything. He can't walk. He's on crutches. So horsing around in the gym. That's what happened. So so I keep fucking with him randomly, and I'm like, hey, you gonna go take the garbage out? He's like, I can't even walk. Because it's so swollen. But he wants to go to a doctor. I was like, you'll be fine. Suck it up.
So
this happened to me.
So he might have broken it. You don't know.
No, the nurse at the school called me this morning, and she's like, if it was broken, it'd be a different black and blue, and that's just, and the swelling went down once he iced it last night.
I can't wait till this thing is broken 3 weeks from now.
So we'll see.
like every time he complains, give him some other like terrible old world wives' tale technique, like rub some olive oil on it and shit like that.
Right. See what happens. Right?
Just to annoy him, like just rub some olive oil on it. That always worked for me.
And he was so mad that I was mad. I'm like, well, you're horsing around in the gym when and you have a basketball. They're starting next week. They have like a couple tournaments. I'm like, well, I guess you're not playing, like, because you want to play around in the gym. And he's like, why are you yelling at me? I was like, well, because you make really bad decisions. That's why.
Call him Nicky No Brackets.
Nicky No Brackets. Oh God. Yeah. So, all right, go take your food.
Well, the reason I brought up the food was I was gonna tell you what I had today, and then you went into
what'd you have?
Junior's little fucking slip and fall. Yeah. He can't even sue anyone for it. What's the point?
Know.
You should have said you should have dumped him off in front of a Walgreens or something and said get on camera and then we'll talk.
Right.
I did a DoorDash today.
Oh, okay.
For a La Spada sub.
Oh, what'd you get?
I got an Italian with all the fixins.
Oh, La Spada subs are ridiculous. They are gigantic sandwiches.
They're these huge sandwiches where here for anyone that doesn't know La Spada. You got your roll. Here we go. Pots and pans.
Yeah, well, I'm getting ready here.
They got a roll. They lay down the meat, and for the Italian, it's like, what is it, like sausage? I mean, like salami, ham, and something else, and Italian meats, and some provolone cheese. Then they throw all the toppings on top of it, like all your lettuce, tomato, and bullshit.
Yeah.
And then they have a topper. They do a meat topper. They do another layer of meat. So then you get a ham. They throw ham on top of that. Which is like this is the only place I've ever seen where they throw like extra meat to like cover all the veggies and kind of tuck them in.
Like they don't want you to see them, right?
Tuck them in a little bit. So I got that and a bag of chips, and
nice. That's a solid meal. Nice to know they DoorDash too.
Yeah, I hadn't had them in forever, so it was like I was like, I haven't had La Spada forever, and I like DoorDash. It's like it's worth the $5 because anytime I go there, it's like a line out the door, and you're standing there forever, and whoever thinks to call ahead. So
place is always busy.
Yeah, so for the $5 tip to have someone,
Right.
well, technically it's $8 because there's some fees and stuff, but it was like totally worth it to have someone bring it to me. This is
yeah, I agree.
This is the mentality I have now.
Right. No. Yeah. Don't worry. I got one over on DoorDash again this week because they canceled my order after an hour.
Oh.
I was fucking livid, and I'm like, and by the time they canceled it, everything else was closed in town. So they gave me $10 credit and my money back.
There you go.
Yeah, I know how to win one over on those fucks. So.
Well, except that you didn't get your food for 2 hours.
I didn't get any food. I ended up eating a cheese sandwich because it's all I had.
At that point, you're so hungry, you're not even going to grill it. You're just going to eat it.
I threw it in the microwave. I don't even care.
Oh, gross.
I was so angry.
Oh, I'm disgusted by that.
All right, I'm going to start banging pots and pans. Goodbye.
Bye.